as seen through political eyes. All that changed in 1997. It didn't actually change until then. Nobody could have confused Margaret Thatcher with Michael Foot. And nobody could have confused, even more tellingly, John Major and Neil Kinnock. There were perceived to be enormous differences of what they stood for. But when Blair won the election in 1997, there was a seismic shift in British politics. Because in order to win, he adopted large tranches of the Conservative agenda. Because he had recognised that the message that came back from the people in 1992 was, well, actually, we don't like them very much, but we do like what they stand for. And we quite like you, the Labour Party, but we don't like what you stand for. And Blair understood that message. And therefore, he adopted large parts of what people had indicated they liked, and ditched large parts of what people had consistently rejected. And quite suddenly, and it has stayed the case over the last 10 years, it appeared as if it didn't actually make any difference which party was in power. To take an obvious example, not only did Blair not renationalise everything we privatised, which is what his predecessors would have done, or at any rate promised to do, but he did his own privatisations. So he didn't just adopt our agenda, he took it on himself, he took it forward. Well, of course, people scratch their heads. And they say, why go out on a wet Thursday for that? What difference is it going to make? And over the last 10 years we've had what I'd always describe as the politics of the shrug, because it's what I meet every time I go electioneering. What difference does it make? And so people, relaxed, reassured, not believing there's going to be an upheaval one way or the other, become less concerned, less anxious, less exercised by what is going on in the political world. But something else has happened as well. It isn't just that people have lost interest because they feel safe. They've also lost interest because they don't believe a word they hear anymore. Now, I've been much amused this week when you actually saw queues of people, very agitated, trying to get money out of the only bank in the country with a cast iron government guarantee behind it, to put their money into a bank that had no guarantee at all. And why were they doing it? Well, one after the other said when asked, we don't believe it. We don't believe what we're being told. So that is a very good example, and probably the starkest we've had yet, of the distrust that now exists between people and politicians. There was always a measure of cynicism, there always has been, as exemplified in cartoons throughout political history, and indeed in political comment. There's always been a measure of cynicism. But now there is profound cynicism. People simply don't believe what they're being told. So there's no discernible difference in their eyes. I mean, I might think there are huge differences, but out there that's not the perception. There's no discernible difference between the parties, and they don't actually believe what anybody, from the Prime Minister downwards, tells them. And so there's a disengagement. And therefore politicians do have to ask what they intend to do about it. Now, my belief is we should be actively seeking, when I say we now, I mean we, the opposition, should be actively seeking to open up differences between the way that we would do things and the way the current government is doing it. Not 100 differences, not even 20 differences, that's just a recipe for confusion. But 3 or 4 big differences in the big areas in which people's key values are. The health service, law and order, education, those sorts of issues are where we should be opening up differences so that people do believe there's a choice to make. And having identified differences, we must make sure that people actually understand what they are. You know, in the last general election, the Conservatives had one very, very key difference, and significant difference, there were others, but key difference, between ourselves and the government. And we said, no tuition fees, no top-up fees. Now, you think of the number of people that was going to affect. Every student, every sixth former aspiring to become a student, every parent financing a student, every parent knowing that they were going to have to But the headline policy was the same. No tuition, no top-up fees. And in every university town there was a vast poster with Charlie Kennedy's face on it, and letters 2 feet high that you could see in your car half a mile away. We oppose tuition and top-up fees. We propose scrapping them. Very clear. I shouldn't think there was anybody in the country who didn't know what the Lib Dem policy on tuition and top-up fees was. What did we do? Oh, we also had an advertisement. Are you thinking what we're thinking? Which begs the question, I don't know, what are you thinking? Now, if you've got a message, folks, for goodness sake, don't go for the clever stuff. Just say what the message is. Just say what the message is. So I think we need differences, and we need it to be sold simply and straightforwardly and not cleverly, and never mind the sophistication. Get the message in. Get the core of the message in. So I think we need to do that. But there's something else we need to do. Because it won't be enough to get any number of messages over if people don't believe them. No good at all. So what we've actually got to do, and this is not just the job of the opposition, this is also the job of other parties as well. What we've got to do is to tell the truth, even if, and perhaps especially if, it's not what people want to hear. For example, we should be saying, because it is true, sorry Britain, but actually it doesn't much matter how much money you pour into the health service, it will never be able to meet every last demand that is made upon it. There is no way it can do that. Because it's a 1940s system dealing with 21st century mega medical science, in which we're doing things routinely and by the hour, not even the day, in our hospitals, which would have been science fiction to Nye Bentham and the founding fathers of the NHS. And every time there's a new discovery, there is a huge demand that comes in behind it. And we can't make it up. But politicians won't say that. Because they're afraid. Because there's an emotional engagement between the electorate and the NHS. There is one. And so they're afraid. And so they go on pretending that you can tweak the current system, and somehow it'll work. The Labour pretends that you can solve the problem by spending, and the Conservatives pretend that you can solve the problem by reorganising, and the Lib Dems pretend that you can solve the problem by loving the health service. And none of those things are going to deliver. So meanwhile, what's happening? The answer is rationing. We're now seriously telling people in this country, what would have been unthinkable a few years ago, we're seriously telling people, you must go blind in one eye before we'll treat the other. You can't have certain types of drugs, even though we know that they might work, and even though we know that some of them do actually work and do make a difference. You can't have them. It's too expensive. We can't afford it. And all the time pretending that there's some magic wand that's just beyond reach, that the result of the next general election is going to cause to be weighed, providing you vote this way or that way. Now that is not honest, and it's denying the nation the debate it wants, and certainly the debate it should have. Which is, okay, so what do we do? Now you can't ask that question unless you first admit it as a problem. And the danger of the present situation is that we'll solve it by ever more stringent rationing, rather than by looking at the other things which we might do if only we had the guts to have the debate, and grown-up debate on the health service. So we need to tell the truth. But I think there are also other things that we have to do. Now, a lot of people have said to me, why do I use television in the way that I use